Happy September, everybody. Yeah, it is September, which means college football is finally here. We got games on tonight, which as of recording and uploading this video is Thursday. We got games on tomorrow. We got games on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 5 straight days of college football. It's going to be some wondrous thing. This video is going to kind of recap some news of the week, kind of talk about some of the bigger topics that's going on in college football right now. And I'm also going to give you a little injury report on teams that play Thursday and Friday. Now, if your favorite team plays on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, don't fret. I will have a second news video coming out about those teams and kind of their injury report, maybe some more news that I missed or that something else that happened later in the week. Again, all news in this video is as of August 31st. So if I end up missing something, you guys can leave it in the comment section down below, or it'll be in the video, which I assume will come out sometime late Friday afternoon, early Friday evening, somewhere around there. And also Friday, I'll be giving you some more games to watch out for on Sunday. Again, yesterday I posted my week 1 predictions for games on Thursday, Friday. I'll end up posting a week 1 prediction video for games on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But hey, I appreciate you guys tuning in. This is one of the news videos of week 1. Normally, you're only going to get 1 news video per week. This is just such a big week for the college football world. I decided it was appropriate to do 2 news videos. So, hey, if there's any news that I missed, again, let me know down below. Any injuries I missed concerning some of the teams on the board, let me know down below. But I thank you guys so much for clicking on the video. And for those of you that have been with me for a long time, and maybe this is even your first video, the support that you've shown on my channel. Hey, if you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button, leave a like on the video, comment some thoughts down below, share my videos. Anything you do really does help support my channel. We're almost to 700 subscribers. So if you guys can get me there before these games start later this evening, I would really, really appreciate it. So let's dive in to the news. On this side of the board, I'm going to kind of scoop myself over this way. We'll talk about some topics on this side of the board. So 2 stories out of FCS schools. We're going to start up here. This was one of the more interesting stories kind of on game day last week. So, of course, with week 0 going on, this was one of the more interesting stories of week 0, right? But the Florida A&M Rattlers, right? They went and they played North Carolina this past week. And, of course, they ended up losing the game. North Carolina was the favorite. They were expected to win the game. And the biggest storyline coming out of that matchup wasn't the fact that North Carolina's defense looked shaky. Wasn't the fact that Drake May looked really good in his first start as a North Carolina quarterback. No, it was the fact that Florida A&M was without 26 ineligible players as designated by the university. And since then, the football team, and somewhere between 85 and 90 players, the exact number hasn't really been solidified yet. I've seen 86, I've seen 87, I've seen 89. The report I'm looking at now says 88. I've seen all different kinds of numbers. It's somewhere in the high 80s to upper 90s. But 26 players, that's half of an NFL roster, and in most institutions, a quarter of a college roster. So, I mean, that's huge. And the football team ended up writing a letter to the university president, whose name is Dr. Larry Robinson, and the letter is kind of addressing a lot of main problems that the football team has had with the university, mainly timely financial aid payments, academic support and compliance, summer school housing and meals, representation on the athletic director's search committee, and ticket allotments for players' families, and that's coming from CBS Sports. So, yeah, this is pretty big stuff. So watch out for this news story. Stay updated with this. It's definitely a really interesting news story. It's something that you're going to want to keep your eye on if you are a college football fan, and if you're into what goes on behind the scenes of college football. This is definitely something that you're going to want to keep your eye on, because this could be really bad for the university. This could be bad for the football team, and who knows what either side is going to do from here. Hopefully the problems get resolved, and hopefully everything works out okay, but I mean, it seems like the Florida A&M Rattlers football team has some real concerns with how the university has kind of been handling things with this football team as of late. So we'll see where the story goes from here, but it's definitely interesting to keep your eye on for right now. Another interesting story to keep your eye on is Jackson State, and especially around the town of Jackson, Mississippi. Coach Deion Sanders has been basically saying that the university and the city of Jackson is in crisis mode and especially referring to his football team. Now, this story goes way beyond football, and if you're confused, let me explain. The city of Jackson, Mississippi is a city of about 150,000. Previously had been put under a boil water notice for a month because the health department found cloudy water that could cause digestive problems. Well, now there's some bigger issues because residents are faced with too much water on the ground. There was some heavy rainfall this past week, and there's not enough safe drinking water coming through pipes for people to use. So that means no water, no toilets, no showers, and for football players, no ice baths. So, Coach Dion is basically saying, hey, we're in crisis mode right now. Like, people need to rally around here and help us out if we want this football team to be in the best shape. Now, I understand that this story is a lot bigger than football. I get that. And I believe the national government is doing a lot to try to help out the city of Jackson. But, Coach Sanders even said we've been hit with a little crisis in the city of Jackson. We don't have water. Water means we don't have air conditioning. We can't use toilets. So we don't have ice, which pretty much places the burden on the program. So right now we're operating in crisis mode. That's a direct quote from Deion Sanders. It's coming from ESPN.com. So definitely another story to watch there if Jackson State is going to be able to, or not only Jackson State, but the city of Jackson, if they're going to have clean running water here within the coming days or weeks. So definitely something to keep your eye on, something that's bigger than football. I'd watch out for that story. The athletic director of, the athletic director of Auburn has stepped down. He is stepping away from, ignore that, I apologize. The athletic director at Auburn is stepping away from the program. And again, this comes among some allegations from Brian Harsin and whatever he's done in the past, right, with the GA on the sideline. I think we all know about that. But the old AD in Alan Green has said that he wishes Auburn nothing but the best in the years ahead, and that he's confident that he left Auburn athletics stronger than when he first arrived. The decision to step away from, this is a direct quote from him, the decision to step away from Auburn athletics is not an easy one, but it is the right time for me to begin the next step in my professional journey. He had 5 months left on his contract, and they may have re-signed that contract, but he's going to be looking for a job elsewhere, and now Auburn will be looking for a new AD. So definitely something to watch out there as Auburn now looks for a new athletic director. The South Carolina mascot recently got a new name over a dispute on the mascot's appearance. So the mascot was originally known as Sir Big Spur, and again, Gamecock, another name for a rooster. It stemmed from a disagreement between its current owner and its former owners, and it was a way that they were going to make the rooster's comb appear, which is the thing on the top of their head. Kind of looks like a mohawk. It's called the rooster's comb. It's the fleshy crest that's above its head. Said it in the article. Again, this coming from ESPN.com. The previous owners kind of did it to amplify his appearance as a fighter, but the current owners have kept the mascot's comb, which helps cool the roosters who are unable to sweat. That's kind of what it does. It's there to help the roosters cool down. And the previous owners kind of amplified it and clipped it. But the current owners are not clipping it. So I, for one, don't think you should clip it. Again, it keeps the animal cool. Something there. But it's now got a new name. It's named the General. Now, it was originally Sir Big Spur. Now it's named the General. It recognizes Thomas Sumter, a general in the South Carolina militia during the Revolutionary War, whose nickname was Fighting Gamecock. So, of course, South Carolina, the Gamecocks. Now their mascot is the General to recognize one of the pivotal figures in American history. So, I don't see a problem with it if you're a South Carolina fan. Maybe you do, and you can let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts on this matter. I really am indifferent about this opinion. I think it's great. I always like when, again, things get directed back to American history, which, again, this definitely does. So, South Carolina's mascot, you got a new name. Okay, this one is not easy to report on, but we got to talk about it here real quick. South Dakota State, or not South Dakota State, my apologies, San Diego State is defending their handling of the gang rape allegation brought upon former San Diego State punter Matt Ariza, who has since been cut from the Buffalo Bills. after the Buffalo Bills pretty much deemed him their starting punter. So if you don't know, Matt Araiza is the kicker with the golden leg. He can punt 80 yards like it's nothing. He's a god, pretty much. He's great. Really, really good punter. And yeah, he might not be playing football. His career might be over before it even started, because of a girl coming out now who is of the age now, but was 17 years old at the time of these allegations going on. It's not just Matt Araiza, it's a couple other guys getting involved there as well. But yeah, the big name there obviously is Matt Araiza. So the school is defending the way they handled the situation, and supposedly the Buffalo Bills knew of this ahead of time. The school knew of this ahead of time, and again, for football reasons, we're trying to kind of push it underneath. Don't know what's happening with my green screen here. See if I can fix it a little bit. There we go. That should make it a little bit better. Anyway, San Diego State kind of defending their handling of this situation and kind of saying, we did all of the right things. We followed guidelines recommended to us by local police. So we did everything that we were supposed to do, pretty much is what they're saying there. Again, we'll see how much farther this Matt Araiza case goes, because for right now, this could just be surface level. It could get so much deeper very, very quickly. So definitely something you're going to want to keep your eye on. The Big 12 has kind of pulled off a little bit of a shocking move. They've opened their media contract talks to Fox and ESPN way before everyone thought they were going to. A lot of people figured that the Pac-12 was going to kind of be the next conference to look at these big networks and say, okay, here's what we can do, right? Well, the Big 12 is now that conference, jumping ahead of the Pac-12, and it could lead to Oklahoma and Texas leaving early, and I've seen as early as 2024. Of course, their contract with the Big 12 media is supposed to expire in 2025. But again, if a new contract gets signed earlier than expected, could lead to these two squads leaving the conference earlier than expected. Now, not super early, but again, still earlier than expected. So watch out for that story. A Big 12 media contract could be coming here pretty soon. Again, talks are now just in the starting phases, but we'll see what happens there. Some news out of Vanderbilt, and we'll talk more about Vanderbilt news tomorrow. I do have more Vanderbilt news coming tomorrow. But the stadium there in Nashville is going to be named First Bank Stadium for the next 10 years, as naming rights have been sold to First Bank. So if you're a Vanderbilt fan, your stadium now has a new name. It's First Bank Stadium for the next seemingly decade. This is big news here from the NCAA. That's going to implement a transfer window, and it's also going to speed up infraction process. So the speeding up of infraction process, basically if a school or university gets hit with seemingly recruiting violations or any other violations, anything like that, it's going to kind of speed up the process and not make it as lengthy. But the bigger news here, especially to football, is the transfer window. So the transfer window now is going to be implemented in every sport, and for football, what that's going to look like is 45 days after the championship matchups have been announced. So pretty much after the college football playoff field gets announced, players have 45 days to put their name in the portal and decide on a destination. And then there's a 2-week period in May, from May 1st to May 15th, to where players are able to transfer there as well. So now we have official transfer windows on where things can take place, and it's starting to become a little bit more of a organized process, which I think is what this process has needed for a very long time, is some organization. We're finally starting to get that with the transfer portal. I know people are like, it's NFL free agency out there, or it's college football free agency out there, but now we're starting to get some more organization to it all. So hopefully that kind of fixes some things here, and yeah, so hopefully that this kind of fixes some things. Maybe we don't see as many players in the portal. I think there are some new restrictions on there as well. I'm not sure of what those are quite yet, but that's some big news coming out of the NCAA. Your college game day matchup this week, it's going to be in Columbus for a top 5 showdown between the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and my favorite team. You see I'm wearing the jersey, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And to the surprise of many, Jack Harlow is going to end up being that guest picker. Now, if you don't know who Jack Harlow is, he's a hip-hop artist. I personally really like his music. New album, really good. But a lot of people were, and I'm not going to say rightly so, because I like Jack Harlow and I think it's fine. I personally don't care who the guest picker is, but I know a lot of people are saying stuff like, why didn't you get a guy from Columbus? Why didn't you get a guy with Ohio State ties? Why didn't you get a guy with Notre Dame ties, right? Like, there's that whole conversation. And if for those that don't know who Jack Harlow is, again, he's a hip-hop artist, but he's from Louisville, which is close to the state of Ohio, but it's not the state of Ohio. It's Kentucky. So he's going to be doing a live performance during College Game Day, and he is that first guest picker of the season. I have no problem with Jack Harlow being a guest picker, but I know some people have a problem with him, and maybe, again, a lot of people seemingly not knowing who he is, and a lot of people thinking, well, you should have gone and got a guy with Columbus roots, with South Bend roots, stuff like that, right? So, but there's your College Game Day matchup, and there's your first guest picker of the year, whether you like it or not. It's just kind of how it goes. Hey, this just got announced recently, but the College Football Playoff Board of Managers is going to be meeting tomorrow on Friday, and they're going to vote to expand the playoff field to 12, and that could happen by 2024. And talks are that there's been some real momentum to try to push for a playoff expansion. So if you've been a proponent of playoff expansion like myself for quite some time, hey, we may be getting our wish here very, very soon. It could be approved as soon as, well, tomorrow. The College Football Playoff Board of Managers is going to vote on that tomorrow to expand the playoff field to 12 is the number, but again, 8 is a number that's out there. 10 is a number that's out there. Again, the number that's always been talked about is 12, so they could vote to expand that playoff field tomorrow. So keep your eye on that for that news story to come out. That could happen as early as 2024. So there's kind of your news of the week. If you guys feel like I missed any stories, please feel free. Let me know down in the comment section below. But let us, well, I got to move some stuff down here. Let us talk about injuries. Never a fun thing, but always something that we have to talk about, right? So we're going to start with teams that are playing on Thursday and Friday, and we're going to kind of talk about some injuries that you got to watch out for. So we're going to start out with this matchup here. Central Michigan is going to face off against Oklahoma State this week. And, well, there are some injuries on both sides. On Central Michigan side, you got an offensive lineman in Keegan Smith. My apologies, I was reading a little too far down. He's going to be out for the season with a knee injury. And then you have a defensive lineman, Laquan Johnson, who is going to be out just for this game against Oklahoma State. Again, a reason not given. So, couple guys out there for Central Michigan. Couple key guys there. Laquan Johnson was going to be a fairly solid piece on the defensive line, and Keegan Smith may very well have started on the offensive line. And for Oklahoma State, some key pieces gone there as well. Your running back depth gets hurt a little bit, as DeAndre Jackson is going to be out against Central Michigan due to eligibility issues. And then wide receiver Blaine Green continues to deal with that wrist injury. He is doubtful for that game against Central Michigan. Don't expect Blaine Green to play. Again, Oklahoma State still has some good weapons in the wide receiver room. But Spencer Sanders has got to improve his play, as I said in my preview the other day. Staying in the Big 12, West Virginia has got an injury to report. Tight end Mike O'Laughlin is going to be questionable for that game against Pitt, as he is dealing with a knee injury. So the backup tight end, of course, there's some fairly high expectations for West Virginia among some people out there. There are a lot of people that are very high on this West Virginia team. There are others like me who think they're going to be a pretty solid team, but definitely has some work to do. And there are some holes that they need to fill, especially in that secondary. But their tight end depth might be tested a little bit if Mike O'Laughlin is not ready to go tomorrow against Pitt. There's a pretty big matchup in the Big Ten tomorrow, but a couple injuries to the defensive line for both Penn State and Purdue. Defensive lineman Zariah Fisher, he's going to be out for the season with a knee injury. Kind of just a little bit of a depth piece on that defensive line. But again, he was, from what I've read, a pretty key figure in the locker room, and it was a guy that everyone really liked. And then for Purdue, along with the injury to another defensive lineman in DeMarhe Lewis, Branson Dean, he's going to be questionable for the game against Penn State due to a hamstring injury. It seems like he's leaning towards not playing that game. So Purdue going to be without one of their leaders on the defensive line in Brandon Dean. And we'll see how they can do and see how effectively they can rush and provide pressure to Sean Clifford without him. Let's move on now to Tennessee. As Brew McCoy, some good news coming out of Tennessee here. Brew McCoy has been ruled eligible, and he is going to play against Ball State this coming week. And I mean, Josh Heupel said it best. What a huge sigh of relief. Josh Heupel called it one of the best moments of his career. Hearing that Brew McCoy will play, he's a very, very talented transfer out of USC and gives Tennessee a great boost to that wide receiver room. Of course, with the emergence of Cedric Tillman last year, now you have Brew McCoy there as well. That's going to be a really good wide receiver room for a quarterback in Hendon Hooker that played really well for the Volunteers last season. Moving on now to Virginia Tech as running back Jalen Houston. He's going to be questionable against Old Dominion. Malachi Thomas, the starter, is already dealing with some injury, and I think he maybe even is out indefinitely. So then their backup and Jalen Holston. So running back depth definitely going to be tested there for Virginia Tech as Jalen Holston. He now is questionable to play that game against Old Dominion. No reason given for his absence. Kansas football. A couple wide receivers have got arrested and subsequently suspended. That's wideouts Trevor Wilson and Tanaka Scott. They're going to be out indefinitely due to suspensions for getting arrested for, I believe it was aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. So, yeah, not something that you want to see there, especially with a guy like Trevor Wilson, who could have been one of their better wide receivers this year. Tanaka Scott, kind of more of a depth piece guy. But, I mean, for Kansas football, some pretty big losses there and very, very unfortunate news just for some actions of some guys that obviously they shouldn't have done. And now they are paying the price for it. They are suspended, and rightfully so. Charlotte has a couple injuries there as well, and a huge injury, probably one of the biggest injuries on the board, in quarterback Chris Reynolds. He is going to be out for this game against William & Mary. Now, it's William & Mary. Charlotte should be able to win, and they're going to try to win after that game against Florida Atlantic didn't necessarily go so well. But Chris Reynolds was dealing with an injury in that game against Florida Atlantic, and it seems like that injury is plaguing him. It's not real known what the injury is at this point. Again, there was no reason given for his injury, but he is going to be out for that game, which means Foster will end up starting at the quarterback position for the 49ers. And they also have a defensive back out there as well, and Marcus Robitaille. He is questionable against William & Mary with a leg injury, and he is a pretty key part to what Charlotte is able to do in that secondary. So hopefully these guys get better soon. Hopefully Robitaille is able to go for that game on Friday. But as far as Chris Reynolds goes, he's definitely going to be missing at least, it seems, one, if not subsequent games. Running back depth, taking a little bit of a hit for the Illini. Now they still have Chase Brown, but running back Josh McCray, seeming like he's going to be out until mid-September. He is also dealing with a knee injury. So running back depth getting tested for the Illini. They play Indiana on Friday, coming off a win against Wyoming in Week 0. And we'll see how the Illini look in the game against Indiana. TCU and Colorado have a game this Friday, and both sides are dealing with some injuries. And I believe there are more than I have listed here. These are just some of the more important ones. Corey Wren, so again, running back depth for TCU, going to be tested. I believe he's a transfer coming into this program. He's going to be out for that game against Colorado, and up to this point, no reason given from what I've seen. So Corey Wren, he's going to be out for that game against Colorado. And Colorado could have a big loss of their own. Nigel Bethel, who's one of their better, if not their best defensive back on that team, he is questionable for the game against TCU. He is dealing with a knee injury. So some pretty key losses on both sides for Colorado, for TCU. Definitely not injuries that you would like to see happen for either side. But it seems like both sides are going to have to deal with their respective losses for this coming game. Give me one sec. Drop my marker on the floor. It's like my little pointer. Sorry, I had to pick that up. Some other pretty significant losses are going on around the nation. Now, these are teams that are playing on Saturday. But again, these are long-term injuries. So Breon Hayward, don't know how I didn't catch this. As he's dealing with an eligibility issue, he is going to be out indefinitely. He is a huge part to what UTEP does offensively. UTEP struggled defensively against North Texas, and his absence was a big reason why. Not sure why it wasn't on my previous board, but is something to take note of, that Breon Hayward still going to be out for the foreseeable future. Brett Johnson, who was going to make a comeback this year as one of the better defensive linemen for Cal, yeah, he's now done for the season with a lower body injury. And he's already coming off, I believe, hip surgery. So for Brett Johnson, I mean, man, that just sucks. I wish him the best of luck, and maybe he'll be given another year of eligibility. In fact, he might have one. I'm not quite sure. But, I mean, just sad. The fact that he was supposed to come, he's already coming off a surgery, and then he gets hurt again and will not play this coming season. Very sad stuff out of Cal. There's some unfortunate news for Husky fans. So they saw their quarterback, Taquan Roberson, the former Penn State transfer, go down early in the game against Utah State. Well, now it's come out that he's going to be out for the season with a knee injury, which puts UConn in the hands of a true freshman quarterback. So UConn, a team that was expected to get better this year, we'll see if that true freshman at quarterback can really live up to the expectation, but definitely not something that you want to hear with Taquan Roberson being gone. And then a tight end from Boston College, Joey Luchetti, a backup tight end. He's going to be out for the season. No reason given from what I've seen up to this point. We go up here to SMU. Bo Corrales is going to be out indefinitely due to a shoulder injury. Of course, the transfer over from North Carolina was going to be a pretty key part to what SMU does in the pass game, much like Joey Luchetti, who I kind of glossed over there. He was going to be a pretty substantial part to that pass game. So you see Joey Luchetti out for the year, and Bo Corrales is going to be out indefinitely until that shoulder gets better. And then for Bowling Green, you have a running back, Terrion Stewart. He's going to be out for the season due to some personal reasons, and it doesn't look like he is going to be playing football this coming season. Kind of like a Rasheen Ali situation for Marshall. Terrion Stewart dealing with some personal things, and it doesn't seem like he's going to be playing football this season. So, I mean, wish him well. He was one of the better is still one of the better running backs on this Bowling Green team. Hopefully he can get better. We got some starting quarterback battles that have been won. To the surprise of many, and especially me, but John Rice Plumlee has won that starting job at UCF. I figured it would be Mikey Keene that would get that start, but hey, I know that there's been talk around UCF that John Rice Plumlee has looked pretty good. This is going to be the first time he's going to start a quarterback game, I believe, since his sophomore or freshman year at Ole Miss. Again, it was a converted wide receiver for Ole Miss last season. Now we'll get back to playing that quarterback role. I mean, hey, we'll see what he can do, right? And they have a really good player back there in Mikey Keene there as well if John Rice Plumlee doesn't happen to work out. But as of this moment, John Rice Plumlee is your starting quarterback for the UCF Knights. Riley Leonard is going to be your starting quarterback for the Duke Blue Devils. So he's going to lead the Blue Devils in the first game they have against Temple. Haynes King, to probably the surprise of not really a lot of people, is named that Texas A&M starter. Of course, he was the starter last year. Ended up getting hurt in the Keys, transferred over to Zach Calzada. So if Haynes King can stay healthy this year, we'll see what he can do on the football field. And again, he presumably will be back next year for Texas A&M. And if he can put together a really good year, that's even more promising for what Texas A&M has going into next season. Couple quarterback situations that are a little bit fuzzy right now. So we'll start out with Michigan here. They have not necessarily, so Michigan is named a starter, but they haven't, if that makes sense. So Cade McNamara Michigan has one of the softer non-conference schedules in the Power 5. They play Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn. All games that should be wins for them. So what are they going to do? They're going to figure out who their best quarterback is. So they're going to start Cade McNamara, game 1. That's against Colorado State this coming weekend. And then J.J. McCarthy is going to start game 2 against Hawaii the next weekend. So we'll kind of get a better gauge on which quarterback is better suited to start for this Michigan team. Or maybe they both look fine. And maybe Michigan can run kind of a 2-quarterback system this year under Jim Harbaugh, which could be very, very interesting to watch. I mean, Cade McNamara is going to start game one. That's not saying that J.J. McCarthy won't get playing time in game one. Same thing here. McCarthy may start game two, but Cade McNamara is going to get playing time in game two. It's just how it works. So watch out for both of them over these next two games. Kind of see how each quarterback looks running with the ones. And we will see who ends up getting that starting job in week 3 when Michigan plays UConn, and then subsequent games in Big Ten play. And then LSU, the last thing I want to talk about here. Brian Kelly has named his starting quarterback, but we don't know who it is. He will not reveal it to the public, and I do not assume that we will know who that starting quarterback is until the game with LSU arrives, which that game is going to be played on Sunday. That is your Sunday game when they play Florida State. So he's going to be careful, and I'm sure people around the program will be careful to try not to leak the information. But, I mean, I would not be surprised if somewhere down the line within the next coming days that someone says, hey, this is who LSU's starting quarterback is. Well, after Miles Brennan walked off, you got Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier. So we'll see who's going to end up being that starting quarterback there for Brian Kelly and LSU. Again, he's named it already, but he's not going to be revealing it to the public. Let you look at injuries a little bit more here, and I'll give you one good look at the news there as well. But that's going to do it for this news video here. As you can look, there you go. Get a little last look at the news there. Hey, I appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Again, I'm going to do another news type video as we get closer to the Saturday slate. That'll come out late Thursday night or late Thursday afternoon, early Friday evening. Don't know why I'm having trouble saying Friday today. But hey, thank you guys so much for watching. The college football week 1 slate is kicking off later this evening. We got a lot of fantastic games on. And hey, again, I just appreciate you guys watching so much. Be sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, anything like that does help support my channel. And remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.